Most defendants accept their fate and move on. But when Elon Musk was suddenly slapped with a hefty fine, he didn't just comply. He fought back with such precision that even the judge began to question his own ruling. Elon Musk never expected his day to take such a turn. Courtroom 3B in a Los Angeles courthouse was supposed to be just another stop in his schedule. A quick, uneventful hearing. He had been in courtrooms like this before, facing judges of varying experience levels, but today seemed no different. Sitting at the defendant's table, he flipped through a few notes, his expression unreadable. Across from him, a city attorney adjusted his tie, shifting in his chair as he waited for the judge to arrive. The case at hand was minor. At least, it should have been. A simple procedural issue that should have been resolved in minutes. But the moment Judge Raymond Dalton entered the room, Musk knew something was off. Dalton was a man who didn't need to raise his voice to command the room. Tall, with a graying beard and piercing eyes, he carried an air of authority that was impossible to ignore. Most judges took a moment to settle in, flipping through case files, acknowledging the attorneys, but not Dalton. "Let's get right to it," he said, his voice flat, his expression unreadable. Musk straightened slightly, sensing the shift in tone. "The court has reviewed the matter," Dalton continued. "After consideration, I find that the defendant is in violation of Local Statute 14B and is therefore subject to a fine of $10,000, payable immediately." Silence. Musk's brow lifted just slightly, but his mind was already racing. He had expected a back and forth, maybe a warning. But this? A decision made without even hearing his side? Even the city attorney across from him seemed taken aback, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Musk calmly folded his hands, keeping his voice steady. "Your Honor, with all due respect, we haven't even begun. I haven't had the opportunity to present my case." Dalton barely reacted. "The arguments are irrelevant. The violation is clear. The law is clear." Musk inhaled slowly, keeping his expression composed. The courtroom was too still. He wasn't the type to lose his composure, but something about this felt deliberate. This wasn't just a legal decision. It was a statement. His eyes studied Dalton, looking for any hint of motive. There was something behind his expression. Something more than just judicial authority. This wasn't just about the case. It was about control. Musk's voice remained firm but measured. "If the law were that clear, we wouldn't be here. Your Honor, I formally request the opportunity to present my defense." Dalton leaned back slightly, as if expecting the challenge. His lips curled ever so slightly, not quite a smile, but close. "You're welcome to try, Mr. Musk," he said, "but I assure you, the outcome will be the same." That's when Musk knew this wasn't about the fine. This was about setting an example. He adjusted the papers in front of him, not because he needed them, but to make a point. The fine itself wasn't the issue. He had fought larger battles before. But the principle? That was something he wouldn't let go. He met Dalton's gaze directly. "Then I suppose we should begin." The room's atmosphere shifted. The city attorney shifted again, visibly uncomfortable. The court stenographer, who had remained still until now, adjusted her chair. Even the spectators in the back leaned forward, sensing something unusual was about to unfold. Musk glanced at his legal brief once more, though he didn't need it. Dalton thought this would be easy, but he was about to realize just how wrong he was. 0032. Elon let the silence hang in the air just long enough to make an impact. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't reacting. Instead, he simply turned a page in his folder, more for effect than necessity, before finally lifting his gaze back to Judge Dalton. "Your Honor, before we proceed, I'd like to clarify something. His voice was calm, unwavering. Dalton didn't blink. The violation is clear. The fine stands. Musk tilted his head slightly, as if studying him, then nodded. Interesting. Dalton's eyes narrowed slightly. Excuse me? Musk leaned back, keeping his tone casual. It's just that I've been involved in legal proceedings for quite some time. And in all those years, I've never seen a judge dismiss a defense before hearing a single word of it. It's, what's the phrase? Unprecedented. Dalton's jaw tightened slightly. Musk knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't outright challenging the judge, yet. But he was setting the stage, forcing him to respond. A few spectators in the gallery exchanged glances. Even the bailiff, who had probably seen thousands of hearings, shifted ever so slightly. Dalton let out a slow breath. Mr. Musk, this court does not exist for theatrics. If you have a legal argument, make it. Otherwise, the fine stands. Musk gave a small L, knowing smile. There it was. Dalton had just opened the door. Musk adjusted his papers, but this time he didn't look down at them. He looked directly at the judge. Very well. Let's talk about Local Statute 14b, the one you claim I violated. He tapped his finger on the printed document before him. You say the law is clear. That's interesting because this very statute has been challenged multiple times over the past 5 years, with different rulings each time. Dalton's eyes narrowed. The language in subsection C, for example, Musk continued, his tone smooth, conversational, is so vague that it has been ruled unenforceable in at least 3 separate cases. He let that sink in before adding, and let's not forget that, just last year, an appellate court found that issuing fines under this statute, without allowing for due process, violates constitutional protections. Silence. Musk could feel the shift happening. Dalton knew it too. Dalton straightened, his tone sharp. Those cases do not apply here. Musk didn't miss a beat. Don't they? He turned another page. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like they do. In Reynolds v. Clearwater, for instance, the ruling was clear. An administrative fine issued without evidentiary consideration is subject to reversal on procedural grounds. He paused for effect. And I'm sure Your Honor wouldn't want to ignore precedent. Dalton clenched his jaw. Musk let that moment linger before delivering the final blow. Unless, of course, this court is prepared to disregard established case law, in which case, I'd be happy to file an appeal. The courtroom was silent. Dalton exhaled through his nose. Are you threatening this court with an appeal, Mr. Musk? Musk let out a quiet, humorless chuckle. Your Honor, I don't make threats. I cite the law. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Musk had just shifted the entire power dynamic, and Dalton knew it. 8:04. The city attorney, silent until now, cleared his throat. Your Honor, if I may... Dalton lifted a hand, cutting him off. His eyes stayed locked on Musk's. There was a long pause. Then, finally, the judge spoke. Very well. You may present your defense. Musk smiled, but only slightly, because this was just the beginning.